Hi, everybody, and welcome to our final episode of season 5.
Yeah.
Sheesh, that's crazy, bruh.
Cinco.
Cinco. Anyway, so here with me today, it's a very solemn occasion, if I may. This is serious. Before I introduce my co-panels, I'm going to introduce Shekinah.
Hi, it's Shekinah.
And then,
I'm Kat.
and then
I'm Minakshi.
and
Justin.
yeah, what up? So we have Justin and Minakshi here today.
Woo!
Hello, welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
It looks so happy to be here.
I'm not holding a gun under me. I brought his own free will. But I'm so excited because first and foremost, we attempted to have Justin on an episode, last season or 2 seasons ago, and homeboy said decline. And so today, here he is.
Yep.
A new man.
A new man.
She's not holding me against my will, not at all.
No.
Thank you.
Wait, me or her?
Her.
Oh.
You, that's a different story. You are. Okay, no, so we're just excited to have them on today. I know that Minakshi's been with us for the past 3 episodes, but this one is going to be more of an interview because we're actually going to talk about the topic of online dating. And so we've shared my horrendous stories, but now we're going to share a beautiful story of online dating, okay? But before that, of course, I have to ask you, Justin, how are you feeling?
Great. Yeah, I'm fine.
Do you feel bamboozled?
Yeah. Because an hour ago I wasn't going to do this, and now I'm going to do this, so yeah.
We took a break, and we were at the kitchen eating and drinking coffee, and we started talking about the question that we're going to post soon. And Justin popped off, and Shekinah popped off.
Yeah.
And so then Shekinah was like, dude, like, you got to be on.
I guess my opinion was interesting enough to get me on
It was
here
a really
to
good
talk
opinion.
about it.
So, I think it's worth hearing.
Yeah,
And I
for
think
sure.
male perspective, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
male perspective on this one is going to be great.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think the panel question for today actually came via a college student. We had our intern put out a survey to her friends, like, what was the question that you posed?
So I just told them, like, hey, like, I'm part of a podcast, and it's a Christian one, and this season we're talking about dating, and it's like, what questions do we as college students, you guys, have? So,
Okay, and
yeah,
then,
that was it. It's just super simple.
okay, and so we got some really good ones, which we in a way touched. But one of the ones that were like, ooh, that was good, is thoughts on pursuing people in relationships. And that is crazy, right? Because I think automatic knee-jerk response to that is no, like that's crazy. But little did we know that we actually have a diverse set of opinions here. And so with that being said, I'm gonna wait on you a little bit,
thank you.
okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait on you a little
Yeah,
bit. And I'm gonna ask Kat first since she was the first. No, you know what? I haven't started with Minakshi, so let me start with Minakshi.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so same thing. First glance in the question, no, they're in a relationship. Why, you know? But I was thinking about this, and I actually remembered something my dad told me. And he said, basically, until there is a ring on the finger, until they say the words I do at the altar, yes, there is room to pursue. And I know we're going to dive into, okay, well, when and where and how and all those things. But to answer it just point blank as the question is stated, yeah, I think it's okay. In dating. In marriage, no, obviously.
No, that's
That's just biblical. But in dating, yeah, there's room to address that and see what needs to take place in order to be in the right relationship, essentially.
Okay. All right. Kitty.
I agree on both ends of, like, yes, like, you're in a relationship. This is a type of commitment. And I think, like, well, like, yeah, like there's no ring yet, like there's no covenant made. And so there is free reign to do that. But I think it's also best and just wise to err on the side of caution, because when you're dating, you are working to practice for marriage. Not like you're like, oh my gosh, let me make you a sandwich today. Like, not that type of practicing. But you also don't want to like let yourself wander off when you're already committed to a person to a certain degree. So I think there's wisdom in like not practicing that, because it's going to be even worse once you get married. But there's nothing solidified yet. So I think there's free reign, but it comes with wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of wisdom. Yeah, and I think I was kind of the same. Like, I immediately read the question, and I was like, "Pfft, no," and then I didn't even think about it beyond that, because I was just like, no. And I went off my life. But then we had a little kitchen conversation before recording this episode, and I was like, wait a minute, now I'm rethinking my answer. I agree with you that I don't think that dating multiple people at the same time is appropriate, because you are practicing commitment for marriage, and I think there's a lot of aspects of marriage that need to take place when you're in a serious courtship. But I can't wait till we get to Justin's response, though, because it also made me think, but wait a minute, like they don't have a ring on their finger, and if there's somebody else that's interested, now's the time, because once they're married, absolutely not 100% completely non-negotiable, no. But when they're dating somebody and you find this person interested, when would be a good opportunity to make yourself known and available? And so I think letting your feelings be known is appropriate, but allowing that person to make the decision as to what they want to do with that, I think is, I think that would be the time to do that, because even letting your feelings be known to a married person, no, nope. Absolutely not off limits completely. But if they're dating, you're right, there isn't a ring. So, I mean, at least letting your feelings be known to somebody, I think that's an appropriate time to let that happen and let them make that decision.
Yeah.
But again, I'm totally against dating multiple people at one time.
Yeah, because I think there's the hard part is that it involves so many hearts and so many people in that. And of course, like when you're dating somebody, you're not like going to be like, oh, like we're dating, we're courting, we're coming together with the intention to get married. But I'm still going to give my attention to these other people and have myself completely open and free range to them. Because at that point, it's like, oh, like I'm also like not being careful of you and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to make. Because you also don't want to fling this person as if like, I think it's just hard to define when it starts getting to like the options of like treating people as an option versus like the pursuing aspect. Yeah. I don't know.
So for you, you're saying that as long as it's ended with the previous person before it begins with the
like
next
I said,
one.
like again, I really, this is all new, and my mindset is completely shifting. So you guys have to bear with me, and I'm sure my mind will continue to shift as I
conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. But ultimately, like I'm not okay with you dating multiple people unless that's really clearly established. If like again, like if you're online dating, there's multiple people. I have this person this week, this person the next week, and I know that that's a thing. But again, you're being very honest. And you're being very open about that. But if you're in a serious committed relationship with somebody, going out on a date with somebody else, I would immediately say that's cheating. I would say, but maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's somebody that you've known or someone in your church, maybe it's someone that it's in your similar circle. They end up just saying, hey, I've gotten to know you and I know you're with somebody else, but I really like you. And, that's so hard. So I'm not like, but I'm not okay with the dating aspect. Like, I want to go out on a date.
It's like Pam, Jim, and Roy.
Yes.
Yes.
It absolutely is.
Yes. That's like I said. I haven't solidified my response, but it was again in talking about this in the kitchen, which I wish we got all of that on there, because you could literally just see my mind going, "Wait a minute," just start shifting. But like, at the end of the day, when would you have an opportunity to let this person know how you feel if they're already in a relationship, or maybe they're the kind of person that's constantly hopping from relationship to relationship, and how do you because when they're married, it's done, it's over with, it's absolutely a non-negotiable. So
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, I want to hear you guys got to hear Justin's response, so you know that why my thinking shifted.
This one is a hard one. I think Jim could have done better the whole time. Pam was not good enough for him. Was that
Low-key.
season 1 season finale? Heartbreaking in the parking lot when
Is
she
that the
rejects
rain
him.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the rain. Yeah. So keep in mind, I just formed a solid opinion on this maybe 2 days ago when it was brought up to me, because me and her, I've been a long time listener to your podcast, and we talk about everything, all
You
of
too
it.
could end up in our podcast.
One day, by force. So I like to think about everything, every discussion that requires nuance with specific like thoughts and like how is the question framed really? Because this can go a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
First of all, you're touching on really a few different things, right? The definition of dating versus courting. You're touching on what is cheating, a boundary being crossed. You're talking about home wrecking. You're talking about having a backup option or a second option. And right now, like, it's hard to gather my thoughts. Like everything you guys are touching on practically makes sense if we're viewing it from the Bible and what the Bible says about marriage. Because as a husband, me and her being married, I'm not even allowed to entertain that thought, not even slightly, right? Biblically, that is the definition of cheating, no matter how you see it, right? So with that being clear, that's not even a question in marriage. So we're separating marriage not being part of this question.
Right.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. You don't really need to go there. But as far as dating goes, Christians with good intentions, if two believers who have the right view on marriage and they want to get married, but they're in a situation where one just finds someone else more appealing to them, and they develop an attraction that leads to them breaking up with the person they're with and going with someone else. In my opinion, that I formed an hour ago in the kitchen, it actually is free game. Like, game is game. Like, that should be the way it is, honestly. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then what you're saying should kind of makes me think, like, you know, people who randomly can flirt with someone, and like if someone flirts with you and you're in a relationship and you tell them that and they're not even offended by it, but they say, okay, when that ends, you let me know, and they give you their number. Like, first of all, is it wrong for you to take the number? I think the second you take the number, you should be breaking up with the person you're with, because
absolutely.
you think you have a second option, right? Mm-hmm. But is it wrong for the person who said it that says, okay, when you're done with that, let me know, call me in 6 months or whatever if it doesn't work out? I think that's treacherous. Like, it's borderline like not respecting someone's boundary because they're telling you they're with someone. But if you're that easy to take away, like, okay,
was there?
bye-bye.
Yeah, what was
Exactly.
there in the first place?
So, and that's what I'm thinking, like, man, if someone was with me, like, if that happened to me and that person came to me with the right, like, with a clear heart and said, hey, I'm just, like, I was wanting or thinking about marrying you and now I'm thinking about marrying someone else, at first it might hurt, but secondly, I'm relieved.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
it's
Oh,
very
yeah, at the end of
relieving
it, yeah.
to think, like, you have the free will to do that because we didn't make any vow. You're like, loyalty is in marriage. You are loyal to me in marriage. And as far as like, as long as you didn't cheat on me, we're good. It might hurt, but you didn't cheat on me and you didn't lie to me.
Yeah.
So I think that's fair game.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to like the intention and the motive, and right, because I think there's a difference, and the question is posed as pursue. But I think pursuing is probably too strong of a word, because pursuing is like you're constantly going after that person. But I think we've been talking more in the context of like, you know, even I think you use the example of like work, like, oh, you've been in the same proximity and all of a sudden you're like, oh, dang, like I think I like this person and they're in a relationship. There's a difference to be like, hey, you know what, like, and I think in a way it might actually be healthy, right, to be like, you know what, like, I see myself having developed feelings for you, and I know that you're in a relationship with somebody. So out of a boundary and out of respect for that, like, I'm choosing to kind of just draw the line here. I can't, like, I don't want to continue this friendship, whatever the case may be. And in that way, you're letting the person know how you feel. But at the same time, you're setting a boundary where it's just like,
And you're
hey,
also letting them know I respect you.
yeah, and you're also letting them not respect you. Now it's that person's job for like their end to be like, okay, how am I gonna handle this? Like, am I gonna Pam Beasley it and go back and like start? You know, well, she was a little trifling, to be honest.
Yep.
But am I gonna go back to it? Like, am I gonna choose to pursue that because I realize that I have feelings too? But even in that, if you say like, you know what, I have feelings for you, but I also know I'm in this situation. At this point, it like, I think it deserves that both of those relationships are not pursued, right? You end this one because now you have feelings for somebody else, so you need time to process that. And this person should know what's going on, right? And not just come out of nowhere and be like, hey, like, I'm sorry, like, blah, blah, blah. Because then that turns into a whole can of worms. But give, like, enough transparency between the two parties and be like, okay, like, I'm just going to draw from these and whatever. Like, now, so I think wanting to pursue somebody and be like, hey, like, you know, I know that you're in a relationship with somebody, but give me a chance, like, blah, 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 blah. I think it, like, the motive and the way that that's done, like, is different. One, I think, like, I personally, putting myself in in those shoes, I don't know that I would ever be like, hey, I would ever take that step to, like, I fear the Lord. Like, yeah, I fear the Lord. And to me, I'm like, if it's, if God is God, like, if he wants me with that person, he's going to make it happen. I don't need to be involved, you know? But in a way. But then I'm like, if you're actively pursuing an honest, I think that says something about you. Like, I honestly think that that's like a little trifling. I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying like it's not fair game, but at the same time, like, why would you want to be that person? Like, that's
who breaks
weird.
up another
Yes.
relationship. Yeah.
That to me is super shady, and I for one have seen that play out. Now there's differences, right? Because I think in the kitchen we were talking about how back in the day, like, you dated from the same pool, so it's weird. Like, I remember even speaking with Mama Sherry, and she was like, yeah, back in the day, like, in youth group, we would all date each other. And so, like, it was a thing back then, you know. It wasn't like online dating, it wasn't going out, like, you were just in a small community, growing up in a small town, like, it's just, it is what it is. But when you actively put yourself in a situation where you know you're, like, crossing lines and boundaries, like, bro, like, that right there is weird. So personally, I don't think it's okay to pursue somebody that's in a relationship. Is it fair game? Yeah. But in the Bible it says all things are permissible, but not all beneficial. So it's like, yeah, you can do it, but why? You know? So I think to me it says something about the character of that person. It's weird.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think the person who stole that person away, that they're going to deal with the consequence of that action, and that person who left, call it disloyal or otherwise, with all the right intentions, like, those people have to face that consequence because they could have messed up something really,
For
like,
sure.
they could have just because you find someone attractive and they might have caught your eye and, like, you get along with them better. There are many different ways to view that. If you could have ended up in a potential marriage and then who you leave with, it doesn't work out, like, you did that to yourself. Just because it was fair game doesn't mean it's good for anyone.
Yeah, for sure. What if it was a test? What if it's the enemy coming against your relationship?
I've never this like, again, talking about it in the kitchen, I was just like, I've never thought about this. This is never something I've ever questioned or thought about or struggled with myself.
And you would think it's rare, especially if you've never been through it, but I'm sure there's people that have been through it.
I'm sure there are, And like, actually, when you present it, I'm just like, I'm sure there are people that actually think about that, and, oh my gosh, this person, maybe it's someone you've been crushing on for a long time that moved on, and you're like, oh shoot,
I lost my chance.
Yeah, I lost my chance, but they're not married yet. Might as well, you know what I mean? I don't know. But
it happened to me, actually. So,
really?
like, when we first started talking, I was, like, really good friends with this dude, and we were friends. Like, I never viewed him in, like, a relationship type way. But when we started talking, obviously he took notice and he was around more and that kind of thing. So he, like, confessed to me that he was in love with me, is what he had said. But he did the respectful thing of obviously sharing within the right time frame. But then also, like, I think he was the one who said, like, I need space because I think he already knew, obviously, that I wasn't going to leave this or, you know, end this or whatever to go that way. And so he set those boundaries, and, you know, we ended our friendship essentially because it was the right thing to do in that regard and whatnot, him being a male and everything as well. But he did pursue or tried to pursue in the right time frame, and it didn't work out. And I know that
it goes in line with what she said too, of like, hey, like, I've developed these feelings for you, but I know you're in a relationship, so here's where we draw the boundary.
Exactly.
So he did the same thing of, I'm letting you know how I feel, but I'm also letting you know that I respect you. And I think that's an appropriate response. Like I said, I've never experienced anything like that. I never even thought of this as a question until it got brought up, and now I'm just like, whoa. I'm learning things.
Welcome to In the Vine.
And when I had heard about that, because she explained that to me, Hey, look how it worked out, I guess. Like, you shot and you missed, dude. It's okay. Shoot again. Not here, but somewhere else. Like, it's not funny, but like, he did it in the right way, so it's no big deal. And her telling me, like, I'm glad she told me, but had she chose him or life went another way, like, it's cool, because that's the way it would have worked out.
Yeah.
But, yep.
Yeah, it's crazy out here. People are doing crazy, trifling things.
Which is why we talked about in one of our episodes, if you like somebody, don't develop a fantasy.
Yeah.
Tell them, make it known. Make it known.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I think there's like definitely something to be said about the person who would pursue somebody or like go after somebody in a relationship that like you had to wait till pressure was applied or until like a fire was flamed
Good point.
for you to go. It's like now I don't want you.
That's true.
That's a really good point.
Just because of that.
Yeah, missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
Especially from a man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, can I even say man? Like, for somebody to just, it's just so weird, bro. I'm thinking of, like, I'm not even going to say, but how can I say this? I have seen throughout my life situations where it's been like this cat and mouse game, right? When one time one person's hot, the other one's cool, and like it's never been a timing thing. And yet there's like a commitment, like a relational commitment, but there's not a commitment. And it's just like, what in God's green earth? You know, just, it's weird out here. So don't wait. Follow my girl's advice right here. And just either settle in or move on, you know?
That was perfect timing. Too.
Yeah, we both looked at each other. So, yeah, I think, you know, there's no point in dragging things out. That's weird. Like, imagine finally getting together, like, after, I don't know, let's say even like a year of that happening. It's just like, how do you build from that?
Yeah.
Like, that's weird.
Some people put up with it. It's funny.
It's weird.
It's crazy.
I think it's really common in our generation. Like, it's so common for people to do that because it's, and I think it reminds me of like the work husband, the work wife, right? Which is like, let me catch you. Let me catch you.
Yeah.
I'll be a work fight.
Bars.
Right?
We'll remix this.
But no, it's just weird. Like, I don't know what it is about the millennial generation that we just let go of commitment. It's been the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And I know it's scary, but
So what I'm gathering is that the consensus seems to be that is it morally wrong? No. Should you do it? No.
And I think largely it would lead to
It leads there. It
not good
reveals a
stuff.
deeper problem within that person ultimately.
Yep.
And so highly encourage you. No.
Yep.
Negative.
yeah.
Can I pose a question from what you said? What's the not dating multiple people?
Oh yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I don't think it's wrong. Like if you're just in a talking stage.
Yeah, like what's
Yeah, that's
your-
what I mean. Like,
Oh,
okay, so I mean, like, dating multiple people, as in, like, the person that you're dating, are they aware that you're dating around, or do they really believe that you're in a committed relationship at this point? And I think once that is, it just goes back to communication. If you're established in a dating relationship and you're calling each other baby and you're holding hands and you're, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like. I think at that stage, that's when everyone else is off limits. Like, no, that's considered cheating.
Okay.
But if it's communicated clearly, hey, I'm still dating around, and they're okay with that, then yeah, that's fine. But it has to be communicated at the end of the day. You know, that's really what I meant. Is dating multiple people, as in you're in a relationship with multiple people.
Okay.
Like you've been on more than like 3 or 5 dates with this person, and you're still beating around the bush with them. That's probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
not okay.
In addition to multiple people.
Yes, in addition to multiple people.
Yeah.
I feel like after a first date, you should know. Like
I think so.
You know what I
My
mean?
max would probably be like 3.
Yeah. At
the
That's
most,
pushing it. But
Yeah.
mine's typically a first date. I try to do my best to determine whether or not you're somebody that I want to continue seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you make a decision. Because then, what are you doing with the other ones? Like, are you being pen pals? Like,
That's
what's up?
funny.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you
Interesting.
think?
I think.
We'll
That's
get into
interesting.
it with our
Well, first, I think that the second a guy lays eyes on you from a male perspective, I'm telling you the truth. Don't let him lie to you. He knows. Like,
So you knew.
regardless, we can't say 100% for sure it's a yes, but if it was a no, you will know. You should know. He should be able to tell you within 30 minutes.
Are you
Like-
talking like you're ready to marry? or
No, I'm just talking about
pursue?
someone willing to pursue.
Okay.
Not put a ring on it, but like
Yeah.
guys know. I think women have a little bit more thought put into it
Yeah.
and have like the game of should I not, and like a lot more to weigh into decision making, guys know. Like guys will tell you or should tell you. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep.
I think it's obvious. I think it's, well, obvious in the sense of when you look for it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, because you begin to see like pattern changes and behavioral changes and stuff.
Yep.
And so anything else, I think, is just delulu. And it's not this
Yep.
delulu. Okay.
She really has bars this episode.
I know.
Salulu's
It's
a new
the
one.
anointed coffee. Okay, so moving on. What we're going to talk about today, as I mentioned before, is online dating. I still remember, was it my 30th birthday? I think it was. How long have you guys been together?
Married 3 years
married
this
3
year.
years.
No, it was my 29th birthday because you were at my 30th birthday.
I was,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember we were at Blaze Pizza, and out of nowhere, I was like, so are you talking to anybody? And he was like, yes. And I was like, what?
That's funny.
And that's when Minakshi started popping up, and Minakshi was like, we were like, how did this work? Like,
Oh yeah. Thank you.
that's a compliment to you. It's a compliment to you. And so, we got to hear the nitty gritty, but I don't know that I've ever heard the actual like story.
Okay.
Okay, like I've heard pieces of it and all these things. Have you guys?
I don't think so. I definitely know that how you met, but I don't know. I don't know the story. I don't know how
Yeah.
it developed.
Okay.
That's funny.
So with that, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to talk about online dating because they met through online dating, and I think most of our consensus within the Vine has been like, if you want to meet somebody, do your best to meet somebody outside in the real world, right? But there's also the component where it does work out for people, and so I'm so curious to hear how this happened. So first and foremost, I think the first question is, what made you sign up?
Go ahead. No, guys,
On me.
I already know how it's gonna go.
Well, I was never pursued in the real world. Middle school's, petty, but high school, college, like that was not me, unfortunately, as much as I tried to put myself out there, make myself available, and, even telling some people like, hey, I think you're cool, like we should try this, and I was not that girl for them or whatnot. So it was really hard. So really my reason was because there was no one pursuing me in the real world in the sense of, organically meeting.
Sure.
And anytime I tried to in the real world, it was for the wrong reasons and in essentially what's considered like BC days, wrong places, that kind of thing. So the first time I was on it or on dating apps was still for the wrong reasons, because as much as I would pray about the Lord bringing someone into my life, it started with, Lord, I trust you. I know you're going to bring somebody, but just in case you don't, I'm going to scroll and see who I can find. So that was my heart in the beginning. And it took some, time to adjust, to get off and learn from that and whatnot before I got back on in a surrendered way. To then, which led to meeting him eventually. So,
Okay. So I have to ask Minak, how was it dealing for you with that, right? Where it's just like, okay, like I wasn't pursued here or all these things, because I think that happens more often than not. And I don't think many people are willing to to be vocal with that, because I think it's kind of like a shameful thing, because especially in today's society, right, we have the women that are constantly being pursued and all these things, and it definitely messes with you, right? And I think as you grow up and you get like rooted within yourself, with the Lord, I should say, it makes sense. But like, how was it dealing with that, especially at such a young age? I mean, you're like practically 19 right now, right? You're like, yeah.
Dang, Justin.
Yeah, that's weird. How old are you?
I just turned 29.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cute.
Thanks.
You're old. Just kidding. How are you 29 when I'm also 29? No, but tell me, how was that? Like, how was that?
Well, I've always wanted to be in a relationship. I mean, really since I like turned 18 kind of thing. but you have those crushes in middle school, whatever. But yeah, I've always wanted, have a boyfriend and whatever that's like, and I have brothers and they, dated here and there, and they both are in committed relationships, and they've been with their, one's now married, the other one, they're still dating, but they had been with them for a long time. And I'm the older sister, so it was weird a lot, and not uncomfortable, but I would get sad because we'd go out for family dinners or hangouts and whatever, and their girlfriends would come along, and here I am, third, fifth, sixth, wheeling, whatever, whoever was there. But it was tough. Like I vividly remember nights where I would like journal and cry because my heart would hurt so bad from like this just not happening. And I think it was my first time really experiencing what it means to wait on the Lord, and trusting his timing, and so now that that's happened in other ways in my life, I can think back on that time and like, well, I did it then, like I know I can do it now. So it was tough. And your parents, at least my mom would, it's just not time, or I forgot, she would say, you're just too intimidating, and she meant good out of it, but that's not something you want to hear. Yeah. Like, how much more do I, hopefully my face says that,
walk around like this. Yeah. Hi, I'm friendly.
Yeah. It was hard. And obviously friends in school and stuff, like they were dating or in relationships all the time, or it was that one specific person or whatever. So yeah, it was rough. It was, I did not want to online date. That was not my first choice. But it was something that was available and, kind of new at the time. And so I was willing to try. That's, at least that much I was willing to try.
That's good. I love that. Okay, Jay Rice.
Yeah, to be clear, man,
Why are you so violent?
because man, too many thoughts going through my head. First of all, we actually met during in California. The lockdown was still in effect. So you don't misunderstand. Like that kind of was our option at the time.
That's true.
Even though,
I had been on it before, though.
Yeah, I know, and I've also on and off. To be completely clear, so you don't think I'm like this angel.
None of us do.
Yeah, I didn't use it for the right reasons, and I think as far back as like 2016, I got on it because I was bored, and I got on it because it's too easy, like too simple. And also, I'm not taking any blame off of myself, but as far as like talking to people goes, I'm naturally shy, introverted, and I don't like going up to anyone, talking to anyone. I barely look people in the eye when I like pay for coffee. Like it's just a thing. I've always been that way. But as far as like 2016, the whole feminist movement and Me Too stuff was like, don't even talk to me, don't even look at me, I'm gonna report you kind of thing. And I had an interaction one time with someone I wasn't even trying to like holler at. And I realized like, it's not just online, like on YouTube and social media, it's actually real. Like these girls believe it. It was at ABC, I think. It was at a class in ABC. And
we get a lot of those actually.
Yeah, and they're like completely like, it's their whole persona in their head is like, if a man talks to me, he's like evil and wants to hurt me. So it wasn't that I didn't care to try, it's just simpler. So on and off 2016, and then like for fun, mostly to pass time, I didn't take it seriously at all. So then during lockdowns, I actually, at that point, I went through a lot of stuff in life and had ups and downs to where I had changed my mindset on that and was a little more mature, like, okay, I'm actually gonna if I keep doing this, like, it's not gonna go well for me. I had some introspective thoughts. So pandemic lockdowns, I was going to the beach a lot because I would go by myself, just driving there, like nothing else to do, and that's the only place I could go, and I was by myself, like had nothing better to do. And when you swipe on people, they're within your radius that you set. So like I've lived in the AV my whole life, and there was nobody. Like trust me, nobody. And I've also been to I grew up in church culture, like I grew up in this church, but I've been around every church pretty much out here. Like I know a lot of people. I'm not bragging, but I know a lot of people.
You're not popular.
In the last episode, we were calling you popular.
Let's just say people love me, but I have a whole lot of haters. Trust me.
I just heard you're a church hoe.
Bars.
Anyway.
I know, I was like hopping around.
Getting a little off topic.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
people know me. I
I've known
them.
Justin since we were like 6 years old, so he's
Yeah.
definitely like a brother to me.
It's very much like, of all the people here,
True,
she kind of
that's
knows me
true.
probably the most as far as like my age and things I've gone through, because we were toddlers when we met.
Yeah.
Like, I remember all those times. But so I've had highs and lows. I've had a lot of thought put into where I want my life to go and who I would choose to date. And so I've been around and seen people, and I've dated Christians, I've dated non-Christians, and it always goes sour for me. So I guess at that point, I'm not like, I don't view online dating as the only way, but because it worked for me as being successful, I would never tell someone that it doesn't work, or that it only worked for me, and because most people have a failure rate with it, that it's not going to work. More so it's your intention behind it, because I had like 7 years of just goofing off. And then the moment I took it seriously and actually like pursued someone with the right heart, it worked out.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's like parallel in the use of the dating app, but just a different, perspective, because I was the same thing. Like, it was for the wrong reasons to start, but then my shift in the right reason was knowing that that void that I was experiencing was needed to be Holy Spirit filled first, and then everything else was going to fall into place. So it was being able to get back on and try, but from the perspective of, okay, Lord, like, if this is that person, I know you'll make it known. And that was the prayer. And there were a couple people before him that were after that prayer, or as that shift happened, but they still obviously weren't it, So it's interesting that like you had that shift, and so did I. It was just a different, like, it was parallel, but in a different perspective.
Yeah.
So,
Which tends to be the case most often.
Yeah.
It's funny because we have talked about online dating, and we've talked about more of the horror experiences
You're welcome.
with online dating. Thank you, Melissa.
Content creation.
But no, and it's funny because I've always appreciated the intent behind online dating. It's an algorithm, right? It's asking certain questions and getting people within your radius. And I think the algorithm is a really smart concept. But again, it goes back to the intention of the user.
Yeah.
And that's where it began to shift for you guys, because I think it can really work in people's benefit if you go in with the right heart and the right mindset, and you're willing to accept that this is me getting to know somebody. The first date, just because the algorithm said that we were good for each other, doesn't mean they're the one.
Yeah.
And so it really just goes back to the heart and the intention of the user of, am I doing this for the right reasons? And am I going in knowing I'm not defined by this algorithm and by the people on the other side of the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can definitely be used as like what is it? Dopamine?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a dopamine hit,
Yeah.
right?
Like scrolling anything,
Yeah,
really.
scrolling and honestly, I think as a girl, it's really easy to get attention. Like so easy to get attention.
Free
on these
meals.
apps. Yeah. And it's really easy to settle into that, like the pen pal that we were talking about and all that stuff. But then at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, like, are you in this for commitment, right? Or are you in this to fill a void, as you were saying? And I think that's such a, and whether it's online or in person, whether you're going to the bar or even at church, like it always comes down to that like defining moment where it's like, okay, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling, Is there anything that you want to?
I don't have a question now, but I think it's growing as you guys keep talking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right. Okay. All right. So we talked about, the reason why you guys decided to get on it and everything. So now what was a moment, which I'm sure there was, but when you were like, okay, I think this is it. Like this is the girl and this is a man for me.
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm a very intentional person, and I even with dating apps, I could not devote myself to talking to multiple people at one time. So it was just a one at a time kind of thing for me. And I was talking to somebody else, or the whatever, getting to know just via online, when he messaged me and he said, Well, the first thing he said was, "Hi, you're so pretty." I said, "Oh, thank you." And then his very next question was, "So what are you on here for?"
Whoa. Straight to it.
Straight to it. And because he was so straight to it, I did not respond for 5 days because it was very intentional. And I knew that if I was going to continue that, I had to figure out what was happening on this end with whoever the other person was. And so I did. That ended. And it was actually, I think I was in the shower and I was like, "Lord, close the door if it needs to be closed so that I know what's happening on this side." And he very quickly closed that door. I like told that person, "Hey, I'm down if you are to see where this goes." And some wild stuff came out. I don't know what the heck he said. He was still interested in his ex and just
You're
stuff.
like, just yes or no, bro.
Yeah,
that's what I was looking for.
stuff about like clearly committing was not his thing. So I was like, "Okay, Lord, thank you. You shut that door." And so it allowed me to move forward and answer his question and keep going from there. And that's what we did. We kept going and chatting and whatnot. And each person that I had gone on a date with and was willing to like put myself out there and say, "Hey, like I'm down to see where this continues to go." Every time I would do that, I would delete the app that I was on because at that point I either had their Instagram or already their number or whatever. So I would delete the app to make sure that my mind was also just there. Otherwise you're online. It's so easy. Okay, they're not texting me back. Let me go and see who's next, So I knew I didn't want to do that. So I was always the first person to make that move, to say, "I'm down, let's see where this goes," and deleting the app. And so when we went on our first date, when we went on our second date, on our second date, he didn't say, "Hey, I want to see where this goes." All he said was, "Oh yeah, I already deleted the app." And so because he said it first, I was very like, "Wait, he did that first? Like, that's new."
to tell you?
Yeah, I didn't have to be the one to do it first. And I was like, "Shoot, I haven't even done it yet," So that's when I knew, like, okay, this is clearly going somewhere because this is very different from what I've experienced in all the other, people I'd gone out with. So, yeah.
And just like to point out what you said on that, it's like what I loved of what you said. I feel like a lot of girls on dating apps, like there's a lot of time, people just want attention. To be honest, as a girl, I know I like attention.
Right.
I can't lie about that. But thank God that he keeps me holy. But in like what you said of like, oh, like you were good at telling the people or the prospective relationship, like, "Hey, like I'm open to and willing to pursue this," and you weren't like waiting for him to you want the guy to initiate, and to a certain degree, like you made yourself available on the app, but also like I want to let you know, like I want to move forward with this, and I'm not like gonna like play mind games with you to try and make you get to that place of like, this is what I'm laying on the table, where I'm at. Do you want to take my offer? Type thing.
Yeah, I don't play games. I'm not that type.
Don't play games. They're not fun.
No.
They're not fun.
Not those games.
Not at all. Justin.
What was the question again? Sorry. I'm sorry.
The question was, how did you, like, what was your moment where you were just like, okay, like this is it?
Okay. I had the moment where like I knew I wanted to marry her, but you're asking like the moment I just decided her exclusively?
Definitely.
Oh, okay.
We've got time.
Because now I want to know both.
Because there's two separate moments. So to understand really where I'm coming from, mostly as an adult, I was kind of a, how do I say it? I was a serial dater. Like I would just date to date, and I would do it a lot. Like mostly half of it was boredom, half of it I knew something was wrong with me. Like like at a certain point you're going on dates with girls and it's like, what am I doing? Like why am I doing this? Some of it was like, okay, I got my feelings hurt one time when I was a kid, and then other was like attention seeking. Some was like, what if I end up alone one day? Like I'm like 60 and I have nobody. So it's always searching for something, and swiping gets extremely, like not only is it easy, but why wouldn't I do anything else, So probably on and off for like 4 or 5 years. And I would get to the conclusion where it's so annoying that delete the app, never touch it again, change your mind, go back to it, do it again. And I met a ton of people, and like I can't say I hated all of it, but for the most part, looking back on it, it was stressful. It was like really, like, I can't even keep up with these people. I'm not saying it like I'm not proud of it, but whenever someone was interested enough in me, I'm like, I don't really have to commit, so why would I? And it was a really bad commitment issue. So I think I realized I had a roommate who will not be named. No longer my roommate, no longer a friend, but he would do the same thing, and I would pick up on it, and me and him would essentially do the same thing all the time. When we go out and hang out with people, I'd be like out in some city somewhere with some girl, and it got so tiring, and I got so stressed out with it, like mentally it took a toll on me, and I saw the way it was going with him, and I realized like I don't want to be that person, because I just saw where it was going, and it was going really bad. And I lived with that person for a period of time, so it's hard to escape from. And it was always like, well, if I sit home alone while he's out having fun, like I could be doing something. And the lockdown made it more difficult because I also had nothing better to do, and I was stuck in a house with nowhere to go. So more so, how did I know when she? Well, since I met her off a dating app, it was still the like go on a date and see where this goes. But then the second I laid eyes on her, it was one of those weird days where I thought life could change. Like this feels different, more so feels different. And I went home that day kind of like, oh, I could escape the rat race here. Like it could stop today. And I always kind of have it in the back of my mind, but I was a little paranoid that if I choose the wrong person and I end up doing this all over again, and I was really afraid of my own decisions. The reality in my head that like I could make a wrong decision and end up in the wrong place. Second or third date, it occurred to me that I had a chance at stopping. I could not only change my mind, but change the outcome of my actions. So it wasn't that the apps were the problem, it was like my behavior and the way I viewed it. And then she knows all of this. And then a few months after that, we're watching a movie like on your couch, and I had to think through my head, like, what are all the ways this could go wrong? And I know that's not a good way to frame it, but in my head, I knew her enough to think about every past like bad relationship I had where I really thought it could work out and it didn't work out. And there was no red flag. There was not even a thought. And I actually had peace for once, like one time. And we're watching some cartoon movie, and she's like, "You're not even watching." I'm zoned out in my head. Like I'm thinking 20 years down the line, and in my head, it's the first scenario where I'm realizing I have a chance. Aww. And so, like, I'm asking myself, do I want to marry her? And I'm like almost to tears, thinking like, oh, I don't have to be who I am anymore. This could change. Like my decision could be right this time. And I didn't tell her any of this, but I made my decision right there. And then I think a few months later proposed to her. So, yeah.
Did you? I have a question for you.
Okay.
Yeah, ask the questions because we're all crying over here.
So you know how? So we were talking. I guess I'll share it with you guys too. We talked. Yeah, sorry. I met you guys. I know there's people there. Okay. So when we were talking before our first date, we talked for a month.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But we asked each other. I had a PDF of like 150 questions. Okay. But questions 99 to 150 all had to do with marriage. Mm-hmm. So it didn't ask those. Yeah, this was like before first date. But everything else above that was like the getting to know you type questions.
Mm-hmm.
Send me that PDF.
Yeah, I will. I'll send it if you want to.
Yeah, no, actually, I was just like, yeah, I think that'd be great.
One of my pastors from the church I was at before moving up here, she shared it with me. And I had never used it with anybody, but obviously he was different. So that's what we would do every night when we would FaceTime or talk on the phone. It was asking each other these questions to get to know each other. So my question for you is, was it in that time that you knew that I was different in the sense of continuing to pursue, or was it only after the first date and seeing me?
No. All those really personal questions that involved like my own opinion, my own worldview, all that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And within the first month, it was all talking on the phone. That was like questions I would hope that we could have conversations about, but most people avoid them. So I'm like, you're asking me, I'm down to talk about it. Let's knock it out before we even meet each other. So yeah, those helped a lot.
Yeah.
I hadn't made my decision yet, but those helped.
Yeah.
Those helped.
Okay.
That's really good. It's good things. It's good things. I love it. Okay, so let's run this down again. So, you guys both went on the app and we're just like, right, like one of you was wrong intention. Well, I guess it was just different motives, right? Different motives, I guess I should say. And then finally there was a moment where the Lord was able to step in one way or another, right? And then now here we find ourselves and all that good stuff. And so with that, like, how has it been, like, building a life together, right? Because different cities, different churches, and you know, all that. I think it gets down into the nitty gritty where it's just like, right, like we met ourselves in this way where we first were like these people behind a screen in a way, right? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but life hadn't meshed yet, right? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people that meet online have, where it's like there wasn't like, as you mentioned, like the organic cross path, like paths crossing where you can just do life together, whether you're like at work or, you know, it's easier to catch coffee or get coffee or, you know, just meet up randomly like that. So how was it like being with that? Because I feel like that had to be a little bit more intentional and a little bit more sacrificial, right? Where, I mean, I know that you would drive up and I know that you would go down because you used to live in the valley, right? So that for those that don't know, it's like maybe like an hour and a half or maybe an hour away, depending on traffic, then it's like 10 hours. But so how was that, right? Because now not only were you looking at this person, but now you had to count the cost of that, right? And so tell us about that.
That's a good question.
Thank you. I didn't have it in my brain.
How does life mesh once we're married? Once we were married, or
in the courting and in the
Like, how'd you guys make that work?
Yeah,
'Cause it was so different.
Luckily, we're both thought out, intelligent, critical thinking people, or else no, because like we had every conversation under the sun, things that we would have to butt heads to get to like what do we think about this? Those helpful questions, and then like life happening. Luckily, we also went to churches that cared about us enough to like sit down with us and talk to us. But that we didn't hold back on anything. We mostly had to either argue amongst each other or argue with someone in front of us. Like what are we gonna do about this? Few personal decisions involving lifestyle, family members, where we choose to live. Those things all, once you take them seriously, if you're with the right person, it pans out. And I think we, luckily with help of friends and people that spoke into our life, like it worked out. I think it worked out.
Yeah. It wasn't really long distance, even though it could be in some ways, but like I remember we established I would come up 1 week, he would come down 1 week, that kind of thing to, you know, continue the dating. If there were more times based on a family event or something like that, then, you know, or parties or whatever, then that would happen as much as possible. And honestly, it worked out because this was during COVID. So my old church didn't open their doors and instead was meeting outside, but on Saturday nights because they were meeting at high school's like football field outside. So it allowed, and I was working at the church. So I would be able to do that on Saturday nights, and then I could come up here on Sunday. Otherwise, I would never have had that opportunity had I still been at that church. So I wouldn't have been able to get to know you guys and how the culture was here while working down there. Like I would have had to completely leave. So that was the grace of God, being able to do both things. And I remember when it ended, meaning I was back working on Sundays, so I couldn't come up here. And it was like the worst experience ever. Like I remember sharing that it felt like I was walking away from the Holy Spirit. Like it was that intense of like, no, something is here, you know? And yes, of course him, but there was just something else about being up here and whatnot. So that helped in the decision making and I had mentioned in another episode the accountability mentor that I had, and knowing that it was okay to let go of a job in order to move forward and see how to pursue life with somebody who was obviously not right, around the corner. And it took me time because I was a pastoral apprentice at this church. So I was working with our high school and college age young adult ministry. And I was waiting to be essentially on staff as a full-time pastor. And I was waiting for this role to open up. I interned and whatever. And my mentor told me, she's like, jobs are going to change all the time. Like, you don't know when that's going to happen. Why are you waiting to see if that's going to happen or not, to know whether or not you can pursue this, because if God's in it, it's whatever happens in that realm of life, like the Lord will make a way, And as soon as she said that, I was like, you're right. What am I doing? And I remember that moment, or the next day or whatever, is when I told him, I was like, hey, I'm ready to get married. Like, that was the one thing that was holding me back, essentially. And we had a lot of conversations. There were a lot of financial things that had to be in place, which are very understandable. But at the same time, I was looking for another job, and the Lord, in His timing, opened the right doors again, and coming up here, and so it was just a lot of intentionality behind the active pursuit of seeing each other, but then knowing that what we were doing in our personal lives was needing, like, surrendering it essentially is what I needed to do, to know that if I don't have this thing that I've only known here, it's still going to be okay. So
I'm really glad that you said that, because that's a big struggle that I've seen with church members. If you go to a different church, picking the church you're going to commit to, especially when it's one you've grown up in or one you're serving in, and the Lord calling you away to go to your husband or to your wife's church, that's a really challenging thing to do. Like, it's heartbreaking, essentially. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because I know that's a big struggle for church members, especially if you're going to a different church when you meet.
And this might be a hot topic, but when we think biblical relationship and the male leading, he was very big about, I'm leading this marriage, we were engaged, so I'm leading us into this marriage and whatnot, which means you're coming with me. Like, this is the direction we're going. And I had a hard time with that one.
I didn't think for 1 second of leaving, so
Yeah.
it was only going to go. It was only
Good
going to
answer,
go.
good answer.
I think we were all kind of just like waiting, like, okay, when is she going to be like, all right, this is my church,
That's funny.
Okay, so it's really interesting because in the last episode we were talking about how marriage is a reflection of Christ and His church, and one of the conversations that I had recently, I was speaking with this gentleman, and I was like, sometimes I feel really crazy because I'm like experiencing the Lord in a certain way, right? And then I come out and I have to deal with life, and I'm like, and that's really tough for me. And what you were saying, right, where it's just like you're in this place of building your relationship, and at the same time you have to experience life, right? You can't just be cocooned in here, but you have to navigate life all the way around. And so to me, honestly, it's just so beautiful to be able to see that parallel where it's just like, okay, now it's changing perspective, and even comes down to what you were mentioning about that childlike faith, where it's not just crossing the Lord off your list, right? You weren't just crossing each other off your list. It's like now you are reestablishing an entire cycle of life, right? Like before it was, you had this one thing going on, and life as you know it completely changed. And so there was a friction, there was a challenge, there was conversation, there was crying, there was laughter, there was, putting up boundaries with one another or with others. And I think that's such an example of the way that life is inside of Christ, right? Because there is this principle of pursuing the Lord, and at the same time not disconnecting from the things that are going on, but at the same time it's shaping the rest of your world based off this one relationship, right? And so I think that that's really big, and that's really crucial in establishing who you pursue and what you do, because if you and I don't mean this again in a derogatory way, but if you had put your foot down and let's say Justin was a pansy and he would have gone to your church, what do you think? Do you think you would be where you guys are at today as far as like spiritual growth, like financial blessing, like all these things? Like, what do you think? And honestly, I don't mean to mean it in a us versus them, like we're better, even though, you know. I'm kidding.
I got it, yeah.
But like realistically speaking, like if you had not been willing to compromise in that area, how do you think life would have been?
Resentment.
Yeah.
Resentment.
I
think probably both of us. Yeah. Resentment.
Yeah, I'd say definitely. And that was like the beginning of submission. And had we not established that then, it would have taken me a lot longer than it already did to understand submission in a biblical way, of course. And I love that church. It was I grew up at that church. I was dedicated at that church. I got baptized at that church. Yeah. So I had been there my entire life. Wow. But church holds culture. And another thing my mentor had told me was there is such a specific culture at this church. Like, it's very important that you experience the rest of the world and essentially other churches within the world as well, you know.
This mentor was at that church?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
She's crazy.
Yeah, she's
That's
not there
amazing.
anymore. But yeah, and she had a hard time too while she was there. There was a lot of power struggle stuff and things like that. But it's true. Like, I don't know if you guys ever experienced, but I remember going to probably Greater Works, maybe. I mean, I'd been like, you know, other churches, whatever. I remember the one big thing with coming to Greater Works was you guys were doing masks.
Oh, we weren't. Yeah.
No, and that was really weird because of where I had come from, you know. And that's obviously that had to do with COVID stuff.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, like, I think going to another church, you forget, oh my gosh, there are other people who love the Lord besides just what's in this building, you know, or in this community. And so I think that's the perspective I was missing. Like, I didn't understand being so enclosed within that one specific culture, that when I was able to let go of that, I was opened up to, you know, what the Lord was doing and the growth. And I remember coming and I think I was already living up here. It was still within the time we were going back and forth. And Apostle Rob would say things from the pulpit, and my spirit would be like, what? I've never heard that. What is that? You know, what is he talking about? Like attention. But the Lord would always reveal the truth behind it and where it was coming from. And so I thought that was really cool, because I was like, okay, like, obviously without me saying it out loud, like, the Lord knows what's going on here. But he was showing me like, hey, like, it's good, you know, it's okay. What he's sharing is truth. It's from the Bible. It's not wrong. And because I was so not used to it and the messages and what we were learning and stuff, that was a big indicator too of like, something is different here.
So then those concepts would lead to conversations about what was said and what's discussed about or not discussed.
Yeah.
And so we would butt heads on some things, but in the end, I knew when I would bring her down like every other week, if she wasn't gonna vibe with the church, it was okay. Like, I was at that point willing to let you go, because I wasn't gonna compromise any belief that I held so strongly that I was gonna have to lead you in marriage where it affects our life immediately. You're not gonna change my mind. So
No settling.
Yeah, no settling there. As a leader, I knew like this is the way it should be. She doesn't have to accept it necessarily. I'm not forcing her into anything, but I at least wanted to see how she would even converse with me about having a disagreement. Do you get aggravated? Does it bother you to the point where you're mad at me when I didn't even say it? Like, where's it coming?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Where's it coming from? Because sometimes we could have a discussion and there's nuance in everything, and some things I might just have a slightly different opinion, but at least talk to me about it.
What you guys are sharing is very godly and very biblical, and it's amazing to see that manifested in your life and in your marriage, because you guys are doing it the right way. You are doing it the biblical way. And it's a beautiful thing to see that maturing take place because, like you said, it comes with intentionality.
Yeah.
God didn't bring the one for you until your
Right.
heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at the time you felt differently. You
Yeah.
knew you were in the right place, and God was just delaying it for no reason, you know? And I know that we've all been there. I know that I've been there of like, God, but like, I know I'm ready for X, Y, Z, and why are you delaying this? Why are you holding this? I'm ready, Lord, you know? And God's like, And
Yeah.
it's just a reminder of if you feel like you're waiting for that person
Yep.
and you feel like you're not, you know, you're ready. You've gone through a lot of maturing and you've grown a lot and you know that you're in that place, but it's still not there. You have to accept, and I'm sorry it's hard, but accept that maybe the Lord's having you wait for a reason
Yeah.
and there's still something in you that he wants to bring out before you are ready for that.
Yeah.
So it's just, but I think that you two are a beautiful example of that because at the time you felt ready maybe, but you weren't ready until you were ready. And
Yeah.
God didn't reveal it until you were ready.
I thought I was ready at 18.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
learned so much. And like if I was to, you know, have you seen that trend where like if I had coffee with my younger self? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would very, very, very clearly be like, homie, you are not
Yeah.
ready. You know you're not ready. So, yeah. I mean, of course, you want to be in a relationship. You want to experience that love and whatnot, you know. But when you are doing it biblically, oh my gosh, there's so much more weighted on that. And I didn't see it that way until I told you about that book, remember?
Oh, yeah.
There's a book called The Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller, and I was reading it while we were engaged. And my perspective on understanding what you were saying, I don't know if it was this episode or last episode, the picture of marriage here on earth is the picture of Christ and his bride. And I didn't see it that way until I was reading what Tim Keller was sharing in that book. And if I had read that book at 18, I would have very quickly been like, yeah, definitely not ready for that. You know, or definitely not ready to understand what all of that means, you know? And so yeah, I'm definitely grateful that our time came when it did, because any earlier than that, I know I wouldn't have been it. So, and it's hard because you don't know that, or you really don't fully accept that until
Yeah.
you're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to have that faith and that trust that, you know, you will experience that, or whatever that situation may be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, before we end it, anything else that you guys would like to add? Or anything else that you guys would like to ask?
I think we pretty much covered it. Thank you guys for sharing. That was really good.
It was really good. So I think it was your turn to leave a tip.
Yes.
Okay.
So my tip is there's no harm in trying online dating.
Oh, okay.
But you have to be on it for the right reasons. If your heart is not in it for the godly pursuit, and understanding that this can be an open door that the Lord is allowing, it could be his will. But if you're not seeing it from that perspective, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, which means it's going to be the wrong person. So those heart checks are so important. I had to do those often, even while dating him. You know, there were a lot of times where he would do something and I would literally walk myself through the question of, okay, if I break up with him over this, is that worth it? Like, does that seem, whether it's biblical or not, like, is that petty, you know? And all of those had to do with trusting that if this was going to be the right person, that if this was God's will, then that thing seemed silly, or that wasn't going to matter. And that's what kept happening with those few little things that would happen here and there. It was always that question. But I was only able to get to that place of asking myself those things because I did the heart checks. I was coming from, Lord, I want it to be your will, and I'm willing to wait until that time comes. But don't be afraid of online dating. It doesn't have to be a scary thing.
I have a practical question now.
Yeah.
In terms of online dating, what safety tips do you have for men and women? When it comes to online dating?
Carry a Glock.
Yeah.
It's okay to be paranoid and search everything. Search everything. Validate everything that they say, like double check. I would say dig deep because I'm the type of person that digs deep, but like meeting in a public place, basic like
Separate cars,
coffee
yeah.
hours, separate cars, those like the obvious ones, and then double check everything, question everything. Don't believe.
Double check on me.
Well, I'm not so worried about you,
Is she
but from
really
the
Indian?
no, more so from the female
Yeah,
perspective.
I know for a lot of
Yeah.
women, it's a really big concern, and it's really big, like, but
Yeah.
what ifs, right? And so, I
Yeah.
agree with you. It's just come in separate cars, meet in a public place. It is okay to carry protection,
Yeah.
pepper spray, whatever you have, Glock, if you have that available to you. But question everything. Like I think that especially the first date with a complete stranger who you met online, who can be anybody.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to be a little paranoid.
Yeah, and I was not perfect at that at all. I made not going with
No, because you got lucky. You married me.
No. But before him, like I agree. Meet in public places, separate cars, that kind of thing. I made the mistakes of not doing that every time, and praise the Lord that I am safe and everything. But I was actually very open with my parents because I was living at home. And so my parents knew when I was going out on a date.
Let a friend know, a family member
Yeah,
know.
family, friend.
Have your location on and everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is super simple, right? Like sharing your location.
Yeah. That's a big one for sure. I think that was
Yeah,
that
that's
was
Just
really
practical stuff, yeah.
Yep.
yeah. I don't think there was much more than that, but the public place is definitely, key as well.
That's good. I was going to ask, so you said that your tip was there's no
Harm in trying.
harm in trying.
Yeah.
And then you said have the right heart. I hope it triggers what I was gonna ask because I was like, man, like that's good. I would like to know that type of thing. But I guess that's it. I can't remember it.
I will say
Sorry.
one more thing. There are certain apps out there that are not, that are culturally not appropriate.
Tinder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone, you should know by now. Tinder's not
Yeah.
quite appropriate.
Yeah.
OnlyFans.
And I think
Craigslist.
that's why it has such a Craigslist.
Craigslist.
It's on there.
I think that's why online dating has such a negative connotation because it's just grouped into all of the not good dating apps because there are apps that are just for hookups. But we met on Hinge, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the end-all be-all app, but their motto is designed to be deleted. Like that's their tagline because the hope is that the people on it are intentionally looking to be in a relationship. It's not a Christian dating app. You do have the space to share your religious beliefs. But that's another thing too. I mean, he said all the right things online, while we started chatting, but it wasn't until we met in person and it wasn't until there was the intentional conversation, and it actually wasn't until date 3, I think, where we talked about what we needed to establish before we committed to being in a exclusive relationship. And he said that I needed to meet his leaders at church and his pastor and stuff. And when he said that, I was like, okay, I can trust that he means what he says when he says that he loves the Lord. And that's what I needed. So yeah, Hinge is what we used if you're curious.
Yeah. Even on the Christian ones, like you're gonna find
Yeah.
bad apples.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
for
worse
sure.
on the Christian ones.
I
feel like it's
low
worse.
key. Yeah, I'm like, do you know? Like, and there was one, the one that I used. I forgot what it was called. I think it's called like Holy or something like that. And they're like, each application, they're like, oh, we pray over it. It's a husband and wife team, and they even had like her mom, I think, was praying, and I was like, oh, this seems really cool. Like they're very noble, And then I would see the people on there, and I'm like, who are you praying to? Like, how am I here? Like, it was a little suspicious. But, as Pastor Linda always tells us, be careful where you fish. So with that being said, I was hoping that the question would reappear. Okay, so with that being said, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for doing this interview. Thank you, Minakshi, for putting up with us for 4 episodes.
You're welcome.
It's been real. Minakshi and I would always say, like, dude, I don't know that we would ever be able to be serious in
I
an
know.
episode,
But we did it.
We
You guys
did
did
really
good.
well. Yeah.
Good job, guys.
And now the crazy comes.
With that, thank you guys for joining us for another season. It's been a good season. It's been, I think for the most part, it's been lighthearted, and we don't know what the next season holds, honestly.
Send us questions. It helps a lot.
Yeah, send us
Yeah.
questions, send us your input as we pray and see what the Lord wants us to do moving forward. And so we're just excited. Hopefully the girls will be back, and hopefully we'll be able to move. However, Denise will probably be with child. I don't know. Or at least about to be with child. So with 4th child. And who knows? Life has been getting very crazy lately, and it's been the best of things. So thank you guys for joining us for yet another season. Honestly, your support and your subscriptions and all the things means the world to us. And we hope that this has been a blessing to you, that it's sown into you, that it's spoken life into you, and that it's hopefully brought conviction and also inspiration to pursue the Lord. So we love you guys, and we'll see you. I think when does this air? It airs last week of April. So Shekinah's episode, Monday Talks, is going to be coming up in May. So make sure that you tune in. Unless we decide to take a summer break, why not? We very
We'll
much
keep you
deserve it.
updated,
Yeah.
guys.
So just make sure that you tune in. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Bye.